Hi, morning everyone. Welcome to episode 23 of the Knitting Expat Podcast. My name is Mina and I'm coming to you today from Bahrain, which is where I live. Hi, welcome. Today is Monday the 17th of August and yeah, it's episode 23. I can't believe I've been doing this for 5 months now. It feels so strange, but been loving it. And just wanted to start out by saying welcome to all new and returning viewers. Thank you so much for coming back or checking me out and giving me a go. It's great to have you guys here. I really look forward to this every Monday morning. I look forward to sitting down and recording and chatting to you guys. So yeah, thanks for coming back every week. For those of you who do come back, and for those of you who are joining me for the first time, hope you'll stick around. So my name is Mina. I'm a little bit of background. I'm originally from the UK, but I live in Bahrain in the Middle East with my husband and our 2 cats, who are off sleeping somewhere. The cats, not the husband. You can find me online as Mina86 on Ravelry, Mina Philip on Instagram, and you can find the show notes for this and all previous episodes on knittingexpat.wordpress.com. Jeez, struggling today. And you can find the podcast group on Ravelry as the Knitting Expat Podcast. I have all of those linked below in the description box on YouTube, and if you're watching this on the Ravelry thread, it's all linked in the thread for the episode. And everything's linked on the show notes as well. I also sell project bags on Etsy as Mina Makes is the shop name. So that's also linked as well, and you can find that on Etsy. Right, and I just wanted to really quickly say thank you to Caroline of the Zazu podcast. Thank you so much. She gave a really lovely review of a couple of my bags that I'd sent her as part of a swap that we did. And it was really sweet. Thank you so much. I'm so happy you love them. And also I wanted to say thank you to all the lovely viewers who sent me some really, really lovely messages this last week. I appreciate everyone who comments in the Ravelry group and who takes the time to let me know that they're enjoying the podcast or just chat in general. It really means a lot to me that you guys do that, and especially this last week's been quite rough for me with Perry not around, and I'll get more into that later, but a couple of people sent me messages and obviously they have no idea, but they came at really good times and really sort of cheered me up and stuff. So yes, thank you to everyone who's been in touch. Basically, I really appreciate it. Right, okay, that's enough waffle for this morning. I think I have a lot to cover this week, so I'm just going to jump right in. So I'm going to start with FOs, works in progress, knit along stuff, knit along news, some Mina Makes shop news, acquisitions, questions and answers, and a bit of a weekend review at the end. So starting off with finished objects. I actually have 3 to share with you guys this week. Quite surprised myself actually. So first up are these mittens. So these are the Meristem mittens by Maria Monska of the Stitched in Sweden podcast. These aren't released yet. I tested the pattern for her in the larger size. I'll pop these on, you can see. And yeah, they fit really well. Lovely pattern. The lace is beautiful. You can see. And yeah, they were easy to knit, easy going. The yarn is it's a Corridel wool from Chile, which is, I believe, hand spun and hand dyed. It's a singles, and it's really lovely. It knits up beautifully. It has, even though the yarn is quite fuzzy and has quite a halo to it, it has incredible stitch definition. And look at that. That stitch definition is beautiful. And whilst it's not really next to skin soft for something I would want to wear around my neck, it's definitely quite scratchy. It's the sort of thing that I'd be fine wearing on my hands. I find that my hands aren't quite as sensitive as my neck, so it works well for that, and I really like how they came out. And those were knit on 2.75mm needles, if you were interested, which is what the pattern calls for. My second finished object a pair of socks. It seems like I have a pair of socks every week. This is the Rain on the Window pattern by Catherine Sneathen, who's also Girl with the Rabbit on Instagram and Ravelry. And you can see the pattern. That's the right way. This is sort of like a nice textured pattern. And I chose to do it only on one side. The pattern is written for both sides to go all the way around the leg. I did it on one side only for two reasons. One, you're actually doing something on every row, so there's no rest row on the pattern, which is fine. It's not a complicated or difficult pattern, but I did it only on half. That way it always feels like you have a rest row when you're working the back of the leg. And because I didn't mind 2 at a time, it's almost like knitting 1 round on a sock in pattern when you knit the 2 fronts, and then 1 round in plain when you knit the 2 backs together. So it almost feels like you get a rest row in between the pattern rows, because technically you do. And also these are socks for a friend, and I kind of wanted her to be able to see the colouring of the sock in both the stockinette and the patterned. So yeah, I really like that. The yarn for this one is Osterman Step, and this is colour number 48. I don't think it's a particular sort of line of yarn, it's just their standard sock yarn with, and I like their yarn's really lovely to work with because it's got aloe vera and jojoba oil like in the yarn, which makes it really soft. I mean, it's not the softest sock yarn, but as far as commercial sock yarns go, this is pretty soft. So that was really fun to work with, and that was knit on 2.25mm needles. And my next finished object is something that I was kind of umming and ahhing about whether I should show you guys today or if I should wait until next week or whatever, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to show you because I want to show you. It's another design of mine. This is going to be part of a collection of patterns that I'll be releasing, hopefully, fingers crossed, by the end of September is the aim. But I'll probably release, there's 3 patterns in the collection. It's going to be a shawl, a hat and socks. The hat and socks will probably be released earlier, and then the shawl will come later because, well, I finished the hat and the socks are almost done and I haven't started the shawl. So that's kind of why. I had originally wanted the shawl to be the first one, but not important. Hat and socks first. So this is the hat. I don't know how well you're going to be able to see it. See sort of like a leaf texture, leaf stitch. The lighting's gone a bit funny here. And there's quite a dark yarn, probably wasn't the best choice to show this off. There we go, that's a bit better there, you can see it. It's a really sort of rich colour yarn. I love this colour. And I originally bought this yarn with the intention of making a hat anyway. So I'll put it on and I'll show you. So as you can see, it's not an overly slouchy hat, but it's not a particularly fitted hat either. I have, after having knit this one up, I've gone in and I've adjusted the pattern, so there's 2 sizes now. This is the larger size, and then there is one which is a little bit smaller, because this is quite loose fitting, but I like that. It does come down at the back, so it covers your neck quite nicely at the back there. So if you are wearing a scarf or whatever, you don't have that little gap between where the scarf ends and your hat begins. And sometimes that was always something that used to bug me, when you have like that little 1-inch gap at the back of the neck. So this hat comes and nicely covers that. But the reason I did the slightly smaller sizes, I figured some people, if you have a slightly smaller head, or if you don't want your hat to be like quite loose, then you might prefer that. I quite like it like this, because if I'm wearing my hair out, or if I've got my hair curly, or if you're a curly haired person, you don't necessarily want a hat that is super tight on your head to which will like flatten your curls. So this one, my hair was misbehaving today, so it's in braids at the moment, but if I had my hair out curly, then this would be really nice to pop on my head, and it wouldn't ruin my curls, like it wouldn't squash them, because yeah. And so this is knit in fingering weight yarn, if you hadn't figured that out already. And the yarn I used for this is Fibre Spates Vivacious 4-ply, and this is in the Tweed Imps colourway. and I used 53 grams for this, so just a little over half a ball. I have a ton left. I could probably get a whole other one out of this if I knit the smaller size. And this is what the back looks like. I really love how this turned out. And yeah, the idea for this whole collection kind of all came to me at once, and the idea came for the shawl initially, and then I thought of the hat and socks after. And so they're all different. They all have the same sort of leaf motif, which is what ties the whole collection together, is this leaf motif, but they all use the leaf in a different way. So they're all slightly different from each other in that respect, but they all look like they go together as well, the patterns. So I'm really excited by this. And on that note, if you're interested in testing this pattern for me, please let me know. The pattern's all ready to go out to testers now. So if you just send me a message on Ravelries, just send me a PM to let me know if you're interested. You don't have to be an experienced lace knitter. I actually think this is a really good first project for lace, for people who want to like venture into. I mean, this isn't full-on lace by any means. It's just like a few eyelets and some decreases to give a nice sort of shape and pattern texture to it, but I think the simplicity is what makes it look really nice. And so yeah, if you're interested in giving that a go, like I said, you don't have to be inexperienced with lace knitting to be able to knit this pattern at all by any means. So do get in touch if you're interested. I am hoping to get testers started on that hopefully by the end of the week, and so I kind of want to be able to get the pattern out quite soon if I can. And so yes, that's that one. I do have a name for it. I have a name for all the patterns actually, but I'm going to keep that a secret at least, because I was watching Maria of Stitch in Sweden. She was talking a couple of weeks ago about the whole keeping designs under wraps until they're finished, or showing the process and stuff, and I kind of agree with her. It's nice to share the process, because I don't want to sit here and be like, oh, I'm knitting on something but I can't show you, because there's no fun in that really. And if I'm working on a design project, a lot of the times that will be a big chunk of my knitting time will be going into that. So I want to share that with you, otherwise I won't have that much to talk about. Not that I ever seem to have that problem, but so it's nice to be able to talk about it. And but I want to keep something a bit of a surprise, so I'm going to keep the name as a surprise, and I'll let you know when it comes to be released. And yeah, so that's it for my finished objects for this week, and we'll move on to works in progress. So the first work in progress is in my Sock Monkey sock bag. Sorry, I just get a real giggle out of that every time. It was made for me by my friend Mel. Thank you so much, Mel. I love this bag. It's really adorable, and it's perfectly, I love the size. It's a really good sort of small size for a handbag as well. And it's one of those 2 at a time, so it's got like a little central divider as well. And this is housing my socks for Perry. So these are it's gonna be part of his birthday present this year. He's getting socks, and I guess I should show them to you this way up, right? Oh jeez, constant tangles. There we go. And you guys know by now I love the combination of orange and blue. I think it's really, really pretty. Works really well together. And he really likes orange. Perry is, I guess it's one of his favourite colours. If he had to choose, he'd probably pick orange. And this is the tag, so you can sort of see what the colours are. Oh, it's Hugo jumping onto the cat tree. I might be able to convince him to come over and say hello. And the colourway for this one is called Herbstson. I'm not sure if you can even read that on the camera or not. It's not focusing. Sorry, iPhone filming. Do what I do. Right, next up is my own sock design to go with the hat. And this is being knit out of beautiful, beautiful yarn from Maya at the Wool Barn, who's, I believe currently she's moving, so her shop's closed at the moment while she moves. And this is the colourway. It's beautiful. This is her, that's her tag, the Wool Barn on Etsy, and this is her rustic sock high twist, 80% BFL, 20% nylon, 100 grams, 365 meters, 400 yards. Really beautiful, really lovely to work with this yarn. It's really nice. And I'll show you the socks. As you can see, they're still being knit, so nope. Hugo's just jumped onto the table, so he might pop over in a minute and say hello. Hopefully he won't make a mess. Just pour some stuff. There we go. You can sort of see that there. And this was one of those skeins that was, you know, one end was dyed this green and the other end was dyed this more like sort of tealy blue green, and so it kind of does this striping thing. So that's the leaf pattern going down the leg, and that's what it looks like on the back. And I'm at the point to put in the heels. So Hugo, what are you doing? He's trying to step onto my sewing machine. It's not going to work, buddy. What are you doing? I better put this away before he comes and tries to eat my yarn. What are you doing? Sorry. So yes, so these are ready for the heels now, so I'm hoping these will be finished by next week. I also have the pattern for this ready to go. So if you are interested in testing the socks for me, then also please send me a PM and I can get that out to you pretty soon. I'll probably have the pattern completely ready by the end of the week. Hopefully by then I'll have finished the socks and I can make any tweaks I need to before sending it out to be tested. But if you are interested, please let me know. I'd be, again, like I said, don't need to be completely experienced with like lace knitting or anything. Just, if you're interested, just let me know. It's a really easy pattern actually because you have rest rows. And there's only really four rows in every repeat that have proper things that you have to do. That's, there you go. Yeah? What's up? Come shake your tail in front of everyone's face. Come here. Come on. People want to see your face. If you're gonna come hang out, you may as well show your pretty face. Hey, say hello. Hello. Okay, come on, just sit here. You wanna go? Okay. Next up is my viajante. Or viajante? Yeah, viajante. I'm just gonna call it that. I don't know if it's right or not, but sorry. Dry throat. I totally forgot to say the two socks that I'm knitting are both on 2.25mm needles. Perry's socks are with 72 stitches, and the other ones are on with 64 stitches, but the pattern will be written for both 64 and 72 stitch counts. So there's that. This is where I am with the viajante. A big old ball. This is how much yarn I have left. It's getting smaller. I'm down to 110 grams now, which is almost a normal size skein of yarn. Oh god, it's getting very big. It's very, very big. I'm not even entirely sure the best way to show this to you guys. Let's see. Well, there's the marker, that's where I was last week, and this is where I am now. So I've knit all of that, a good few inches there, quite a bit. I've not got much left to go. I've got about 35 grams until I start the border, the edging. So I am on track to have this finished in time for our trip to New York, which is really exciting because that's basically, that was my goal, was to have this ready for when we went away. And because I want to wear it on the plane and it will be fun and it will be warm and it will keep me nice and snuggly. And I really like how this is pulled. It's interesting because obviously you're increasing stitches as you're going, and you start at the beginning and you've got this first little section of flashing. It comes up and then you get this second little section of flashing which is different to the first one, and then you get this awesome little flashes of colour, and then it goes back to that other type of flashing, and then you get, again, more flashes, and it just sort of intersperses the variegation with these two different types of flashing, and obviously it depends on the stitch counts and what's happening with how the yarn is lining up. So I've just finished another sort of big section of flashing, and then I'm in one of these sections, the second type of flashing sections, where the pink is lining up but the other two colours are striping. Sorry, there we go, it's a bit better there. You can see the two different types here. See where the pink, this is the first type where they all sort of start lining up with each other, and this type where the pink is the only one that's lining up. Which is interesting. I'm really liking how that's looking. It's going to be a fun, massive shawl when this is done. It's already pretty massive. This will be a nice warm blankety type thing to snuggle up in. And that's in one of my prototype elephant bags. And that's being knit on 3.5mm needles. The pattern is by Martina Bem. I don't know if I'd mentioned that or not. And my goal for next week, I sort of been setting myself little goals for each week to make sure I finish in time. My goal for next week is to have started the lace section. Yeah, because by next week, if I've started the lace section, then by the following week I'll have hopefully finished it and blocked it, and then I'm going away. So yeah, exciting. And my last work in progress to show you guys this week is my Cozy Memories blanket, which I am loving. And if you guys are following me, or anyone really who's knitting one of these on Instagram at the moment, you'll know that Sally from the Wool Diaries is hosting a, I say hosting, it's only on Instagram and it's relatively informal, a sock blanket madness week, where on Friday everyone posted pictures of, everyone who wanted to play along, posted a picture of their sock yarn blanket or their Cozy Memories blanket, and showed how many squares they'd done so far, and then we have a week to see how many squares we can add to our blankets, and then at the end of the week we post another picture and say how many we've added, and then whoever's added the most is the winner. You know, they don't actually win anything, it's just for fun. And so far, I think since I last showed it to you, I added these two before Friday, and then since Friday I've added these three and these three up here. Ignore that's from the back section, but it's just easier to show this to you if I fold it. So these are the ones. This one is really interesting because this is a Debbie Bliss Cashmerino 4-ply, and I've never worked with Debbie Bliss before. But even as I was knitting it, it felt like a very, sorry, I was cutting my head off there. It felt like a very thick 4-ply, like quite thick for a fingering weight. And it's come out, the square has come out massive compared to the one next to it. Not that I mind, I've got a couple of squares of sport weight in here as well. But it does look more like a sport weight yarn than a fingering weight, which is what the one next to it is. I just thought that was interesting. Because I thought, I've never worked with Debbie Bliss Cashmerino before, so I just assumed it was a 4-ply yarn, as in it was fingering weight. But there we go. And these two are, sorry, I should say this was from Katrina, who I met in London last time I was back. Hi Katrina. And these two are sample mini skeins from Artistic Yarns by Abby on Etsy, and I'd ordered a couple of skeins from her, which I showed you guys when I got back from London, the watermelon yarn and the rainbow yarn and stuff that she does. And this is in the Bollywood colorway, and this one I believe is Citrus Stripes. And I have one more sample from her which I'm going to be adding next, so all three of her samples will be together. And then the row below, that whole row is all yarn that Anya sent me, and that's Anya Loves to Knit on Instagram, I believe. Crap, I didn't write it down, I believe that's what it is, but it's Anya. Thank you, Anya. And those are all, they all felt like just generic sort of sock yarn anyway, but they're really fun colours. I've really been enjoying knitting on that. I have a ton of ends to weave in, so, which I don't mind. I've already said this before, I really don't mind weaving. Look at that, it rolls up into like a proper blanket, which is awesome. I I don't mind weaving in ends. I think what I'll probably end up doing one night this week, once Perry's back, if we're watching something on TV, I'll just sit there with my tapestry needle and like weave them all in. Yeah. Okay, so that's it for actual knitting, I think. And we will move on to knit-along news. And I have quite a bit to talk about this week because I had quite an overwhelming response to my question last week about whether you guys would be interested in doing an KAL or a September knit-along, and there was an overwhelming response of yes, we'd like to do that. So this week's knit-along news is going to cover 3 knit-alongs and stuff, and I'm going to show you all the prizes that I have. I've got a box of prizes for you guys, so fun. Right, I'm going to move over here a little bit. So first up, Sunrays KAL for my Sunrays shawl, and I didn't bring one over to show you, but you guys probably all know what that looks like by now. I've shown you every week. And that is now running. I extended the deadline to the 7th of September, which is actually while I'm away. I'll be in New York at the time, but I should be able to close the thread on that day. I believe the 7th is a Monday. I can't remember now what day of the week it actually is, but I'll either film that day or one of the subsequent days. I'm not entirely sure what my podcasting schedule is going to be like whilst I'm traveling. I'm hoping to at least be able to upload a short video whilst I'm away, but I know, yeah, for that first week that I'm away, I should be able to film something because we are in New York for a whole week, and whilst Perry's at school and stuff, I'm sure I can fit in something, and as long as the internet at the hotel is okay enough, I should be able to upload a short video to YouTube. But the following week, we're actually traveling back to Bahrain the entire Monday, which is the day I normally would be filming. So what I'll probably end up doing is filming a day or two late that week, so I'll hopefully get one up. I will definitely try and get one up that week, but it will probably just be a couple of days late, or I may try and pre-film something before we leave New York and upload that when we get back, so it won't be as late. I haven't quite figured that out yet. I'll kind of play it by ear and let you guys know on Ravelry and Instagram anyway. Right, Sunrays KAL. That's running until the 7th of September now, so what I'm going to do is I will close the thread on the 7th, and considering I'm going to be in the US anyway, I will close it. I will try and close it as late in the evening as I can remember. It will close on the 7th at some point, which I think is a Monday, so try and get it in by the 6th is the general gist. You have until I close it on the 7th. I'm not entirely sure when I'll get around to it, depending on what we're doing. And the prizes for that are, there are 2 yarn prizes. One is a skein of Fiery Sunset yarn by the Yarn Tree, who supplied the yarn that I used to knit the shawl with in the first place. And there's a skein of the Natural Dye Studio in the Chi Merino Bamboo 4-ply sock in the Peacock colorway. And this company, I believe, is now is no longer in business, so you can't really get this anymore. And yeah, that's a really lovely sock yarn. And we also have one of my project bags. So one of my medium-sized project bags is up for grabs, which you're more than welcome to switch for a small sock bag or one of my drawstring bags. I'll just give you an idea of size. This is what one of my medium-sized project bags looks like. It's big enough for a shawl, it's big enough. I have started garments in these as well, and they usually fit right up until the last bit. You can fit quite a lot into one of these bags. So yeah, but you're more than welcome to switch for one of my other bags as well. The only ones that won't be included are my large project bags, which I actually don't have that many available at the moment. So you pretty much just get a pick of a bag in my shop, really, or whatever's available at the time. So yeah, make sure you enter. There are 9 or 10 entries, I believe, in the thread at the moment, and I know there are a few others who are still knitting on theirs. And so yeah, please make sure you enter your finished objects into the finished objects thread, and I will be drawing from that for the prizes. And I will obviously let you guys know in the following episode that I film. Then the Rainbow Knit Along, now that's running until the 30th of September, and we have a lot of prizes for that one. There have been very generous donations. Sorry, I'm just feeling a bit Yes, so the Rainbow Knit Along, we've had some very generous donations from viewers and friends of the podcast who have sent in some lovely prizes. I'm still waiting on one thing, I believe, in the mail, which I think are some stitch markers. But we have the first prize, or one of the prizes that we have, is a skein of yarn from Zazu Yarns, which is Carol from the Zazu podcast. She's offering up any one skein from her shop. So the winner I'll put you in touch with her, and you can pick which yarn you want, and she'll send it to you. So that's one prize. And we had Celine has donated 3 of her patterns. So, well, any 3 patterns as prizes. So what I'm going to do is whoever wins the yarn from Zazu Yarns also wins one of the pattern prizes. So you'll be able to pick one of the hat patterns that Celine has in her Ravelry shop. And then the other 2 pattern prizes, I'm going to draw winners from the chatter thread, because I figure that'll be fun. It'll be a fun way to sort of spread the love a little bit. And the chatter thread's always fun. It's always fun to chat with people. And obviously, if I draw my own name, I'll just keep going until I draw someone else's name. So yeah, there's no sort of pressure on that one to have finished an item. As long as you come and you chatter, you will be eligible for a pattern prize. And then the next prize is this skein of beauty from You Who Knits, Georgina from Canada. It also includes one of her DPN cozies, which you'll have seen I was using on one of my socks as well. She sent me one. And this is a skein of her Rainbow Dash, which is basically a blue background with stripes with rainbow stripes throughout. And it's so soft, and this is on her Irish Fairy Tree base, and it's 389 meters, 426 yards, and at approximately 115 grams. So a very generous, squishy size skein of yarn. It's a very plump fingering, so this makes some really nice socks. And the next prize we have is from another lovely Carol from the Netherlands, and she dyes yarn. Her shop is called Colour Creativity, and I linked it in the show notes last week. And she's donated a set of her rainbow mini skeins, so there are 8 colours in there, and a set of stitch markers on a necklace. It's actually a necklace you can wear around your neck, and you've got the stitch markers dangling from it. Obviously you can take them off and put them on, so it's a nice way to store them if you're out and about. So yeah, so that'll be another prize. And then the final prize, where did that go? Here we go. Final prize is one of my rainbow project bags. I only made 3 of these. One I'm keeping, one sold almost instantly in the shop when it went up on Friday, and this is the 3rd one. So this is the prize. Rainbow project bag for a rainbow knit along, because why not? And so that's the main prize, and to go with that I have a lovely set of stitch markers, which I'm just going to carefully show you so you can see. And these are from Andre C Knits, and these little rainbow skeletons. How cute are those? And so this came in the 2nd package that she sent me after she was worried that her first one wasn't arriving. And as soon as I saw they were rainbow colours, I was like, okay, these will be perfect for the knit along as a prize. So that's what I've decided to do with that, is I'm going to include them as a knit along prize with the bag. So those are 3 prizes that I will be mailing out, plus one yarn donation from Zazu Yarns, and some pattern prizes as well. So, so a lot of prizes for this knit along, but there has been a lot of interest and a lot of participation. So I think it's only right, really, that we have some more prizes, sort of to match the level of participation as well. Give people more chance. And then, so the 3rd knit along. So for the Rainbow KAL, pretty much anything goes. I've said before, if it thinks it's a rainbow, it counts. I'm really relaxed with this one, to be honest. It was more just about having fun and knitting some bright, colourful, fun projects. And honestly, if you look through the chatter thread and the finished objects thread, it's just so much fun. It's really cheerful, really uplifting, and it's just really happy thread of pretty colours. So if you haven't checked it out already, go check out the finished objects thread. It's quite inspiring. So third knit along. This is going to be called the September KAL, and the hashtag is going to be hashtag SEPTKAL, so Sept, short for September, Sept KAL. I was going to do the SKAL, but that's already a hashtag that's being used, so Sept KAL is not being used by anyone, so I'm taking that one. And that's going to be running from the 1st of September to the 30th of September, and basically anything that's knit or crochet is eligible. Whips count as long as it's finished by the 30th of September. So like I said, from the 1st to the 30th, anything goes as long as it's finished and in the finished objects thread by the 30th. And the rule is anything with an S. It could be socks, scarves, shawls, slippers, sweaters, any item that begins with S, a pattern that begins with S, yeah, I think that pretty much covers it. Anything that's an S item, anything you can, like, you know, legitimately say, okay, this item begins with an S in some way or another, then yeah, that will count. I'm not going to allow people to enter blanket squares, sock yarn blanket squares, because they are so small and it's going to be really difficult to try and figure out how to monitor that and how to make it fair, because so I'm going to draw the line there and say no blanket squares for finished objects, because really, unless you actually finish a whole blanket by the end of September, it's not really fair because it's not technically a finished object. So I'm just putting that out there. But pretty much anything else is welcome, is fine. Like I said, hats, scarves, shorts, not hats, scarves and shawls. Hats are fine as long as the pattern begins with an S, the pattern name. So in that respect, pretty much anything. There's a lot of variety there, a lot of options. And so far I have 2 prizes allocated for this knit along. First up, actually I might split it up, make it 3 prizes. 3 prizes at the moment. One is going to be one of my large project bags. This is one of my patchwork kitchen themed project bags, which I really quite like how this one turned out. So that'll be one prize. The second prize is going to be this beautiful skein of loveliness, which is really, that's the yarn. This was again donated to me by a lovely viewer, Katrina, same Katrina who gave me those sock yarn scraps for my blanket. And she got this at the Berlin Fibre Festival this year. She sent it on to me. So it's from Germany, it's hand dyed, and it is 85% wool, 15% Donegal net, 100 grams, 400 meters. This would be some really lovely socks or a really nice squishy hat. So that's a lot of fun. So that's the second prize. And the third prize is actually also to do with acquisitions, but I did a little swap with Sue from the Tangled Skein, or 2 Tangled Skeins. Her Etsy shop is the Tangled Skein, and so she's also sent an extra bag. She makes bags, so she sent me a bag, and she also sent one for you guys. So I'm using the bag that she sent for you guys as one of the prizes for this knit along, and this is the bag that she sent. It's one of her medium knot bags. Inside, that's the other side. And if you don't know how these work, is you just put your project inside. It's got a lovely polka dot orange lining, and then you slip the long handle in through the short side, and there you go. And you can just hang this over your wrist, and you can knit as you go, and your yarn comes out through the hole in the top there. It's a really good sort of on-the-go knitting. And so that'll be the prize, along with a set of mini skeins from Andre C Knits, from Andy, and some cute little alpaca tab markers. So cute. So I kind of thought the colour scheme with these all kind of went together quite nicely. So this is one prize. So those are the 3 prizes at the moment. So yeah, what I'm going to do is, if you are interested in donating a prize for this knit along, then please do get in touch. Let me know. We'll sort something out. And if there is more interest in if we go over like 50 entries in the finished objects thread, I might throw in a 4th prize myself if there are no other prizes. So we'll see how that goes. For now, those are the prizes. I think that's plenty. That's a lot of knit-alongs going on at the moment. It wasn't really my intention to have so many knit-alongs going on at the same time, but as it happens, if you knit a rainbow-coloured sunrays shawl that you finish by the 7th of September, you can actually enter it into all 3 knit-alongs, which sounds kind of crazy. But yeah, it's pretty easy going. You could knit a rainbow shawl and enter it into both knit-alongs in September, the rainbow KAL and the September KAL. So if you knit this pattern, with a rainbow yarn, then you can enter that into 2. And you're more than welcome to double dip or triple dip and quadruple dip and whatever dip into as many other knit-alongs that other podcasters or other groups are running. More than welcome. I am so not fussy like that at all. Yeah, that's it for knit-along news this week. I think that kind of went on a bit longer than I intended, but yeah, okay, hope that didn't bore you guys too much. Really quickly, Mina Makes Etsy shop update. I did a shop update on Friday, so there's a bunch of bags in the shop now. A bunch have already sold. I have a few bags still in the shop, and I'll just give you a quick little sample of some of the bags. A couple of the small bags I have left are, I have a bunch of my fruit salad sock size bags, and I have one of these left, the floral dots. And the sock size fruit salad bags come in a variety of zipper options. So there's orange, red and green are the zipper options for those. I have a bunch of wide sock wedge bags in my neutral colours. I say neutral, they're more sort of like just stripes really. So I've got the purple and grey stripes, these grey and white stripes, grey and black stripes, and blue and grey and white stripes. And I also have these available in the smaller sock size. These are the wide wedge bags. So these are really good for 2 at a time, and also for shawls and scarves and stuff. I have one fruit salad bag in the wide wedge, and then I have a fruit salad in the medium, red roses in the medium, and then a red roses with a red bottom in the medium. And then there's a variety of drawstring bags available. Still, I'm not going to bore you and show you everything one at a time. And then there's a few more of those large kitchen patchwork bags available as well in the shop. I do have more bags prepped. They just obviously all needs to be sewn together. The fabric's prepped, so I'm not entirely sure how much I'm going to get done before I go away. I'm hoping to get a bunch of sewing done before I go away, but probably won't have another shop update until I get back from New York, just because I think by the time I get the bags ready to put in the shop update, we're going to be ready to go away. So there's not going to be much point in doing an update only to have to close the shop for 2 weeks. So I'm going to get as many ready as possible, and then I'll hopefully be able to have an update when we get back from New York. So it'll be mid-September, I think, about a month before I have another update, I think. That's just being realistic, really, to be honest. I don't want to promise anything to anybody. Right, moving on to acquisitions. A very short section this week for acquisitions. I mentioned earlier that I did a swap with Sue from Two Tangled Skeins for bags, so I sent her a bag and she sent me a project bag as well, and she sent me this one. Awesome colours. I love the orange print. It's not too florally, but it's more of like a graphic floral print, which I really quite like. And this has a nice sort of neutral sort of, and it's got sort of stars on the inside. I don't know how well you can see that on camera. Slightly sort of like neutral. I like it. It's really sort of nice sort of cream coloured lining with stars. And again, it does the same thing. Goes through the small bit, dangles like that. So this would be good for projects on the go as well. If you want to knit whilst walking around, or if I want to knit whilst walking around rather, it's good for that. And this is her card, Tangled Skein, and that's the shop details. How well you can see that. It's the Tangled Skein CA on Etsy. And the other acquisition I have for this week is a pattern, the Whiz Bang pattern with the Bootylicious heel, and from, I think it's Sarah Shu. I actually won this pattern as part of the Caffeinated Knitting 12 Socks in 2015 knit along that they're running all year, and every month they draw a winner from the thread on their group. And I won again. I won once a couple months ago for a pair of socks, and I won again in July as well. So I won that pattern, and I've already picked out the yarn for it. I'm using this awesome crazy variegated yarn of loveliness, and this is Knit Picks Stroll Fingering in Country Fair, hand painted. And this pattern is specifically designed for crazy variegated yarn, and this was the craziest variegated yarn that I had for socks. I don't actually have any other crazy variegated yarn for socks in my stash. Everything else that I have for socks that is like crazy colours is self-striping. So this is actually the only one that I had that would be suitable. So that is what this is going to be. And this is also going to be perfect for the September knit along and the rainbow knit along. So this won't be cast on straight away. I'll probably ball this up and get it ready and take it with me when we go to New York as one of my knitting projects for whilst we're away. And that's it for acquisitions. I've not had much come in the mail this week other than the bags from Sue. So I am expecting a few things, so hopefully those will come soon. Yeah, really excited. I'm waiting for the yarn to come in for the shawl that I'm designing, which is why that hasn't been cast on yet. And once that gets here, I'm really excited to tell you about who I'm working with on that one. So that should be fun. Okay, questions and answers. Q&A. Last week I got some really good feedback on beginner patterns. For one of the viewers was asking about suitable beginner patterns for people who know the basics of knitting but want to kind of expand a little bit and learn a bit more and sort of develop their skills a little bit better. And I said on the podcast that basically I kind of just picked a pattern I liked the look of and went with it. I didn't really worry too much about I was never really thought that, oh, I can't do that because I don't have enough experience, or that sort of thought process didn't really occur with me. It was very much like, oh, I like to knit that, let me figure out how to do it. So if I read the pattern, I didn't know how to do something, I just sort of looked it up online and figured it out. And that's just the way my mind works. It's nothing wrong with not thinking that way. That's just the way I think. And I know there's plenty of people that do think that way, and there are plenty of people who like to have a teacher or like to have someone tell them, okay, now do this, now do that, and that's perfectly fine too. Everyone works slightly differently, and I've always been pretty I've always been sort of like self-taught with things like this. Like I've always sort of just figured things out for myself. So I didn't really have that many suggestions in terms of what would be good in that respect, but you guys certainly did. And I completely forgot about this, but it's very true. The Tin Can Knits have a collection of patterns called the Simple Collection. And it takes you from very basic scarf, I believe is the first one, and it takes you through different patterns. You go from a scarf, I think it's a hat, it's got socks, and then 2 types of jumpers as well. So there's like 5 or 6 patterns in total, and it takes you through the different types of garments that you can make, and you learn different skills with each one. And by the time, if you knit every pattern in the collection, by the time you get to the end, you pretty much know what you need to know to be able to knit anything, and I think that's really good. So if you are interested, definitely check that out. Then Joanna, I believe, from who is Blooming Tiger on Instagram and Ravelry, she also suggested Joji Locatelli's 3-color cashmere KAL as a good one. I haven't knit that, but I've seen it and I've seen the pictures of it, and I agree with that. That'd be a really good one for a new knitter who wants to expand a little bit, because it's just knitting in the round. You're not changing your stitch count. There's no increase. There's no sort of like, you're not having to keep track of it's not like knitting a shawl where you've got to increase stitches or decrease and whatever. But it has got lace, you've got colour changes, so there are things you will learn through that without it being overly complicated. So I think that's also a good one. So that there's a bunch of stuff linked in the thread on Instagram, on Ravelry. So definitely go check that out. I had a question, I can't remember where the question was or who from, but someone asked about my shawl that I designed and about carrying the yarn and whether you carry the yarn or cut it. And I do have this noted in the pattern. If you want to, you can carry the yarn, and I did for the first 2 sections. I think if I take it off, it might be easier. So for the first 2 sections, I did carry the yarn up the side. So this section and this section, I carried the yarn up the edge. I don't know if you can even tell or not. But once you get and then obviously I cut in between the sections where it's too long to carry. But once you get past this section and into the next section, the distances that the yarn has to travel becomes quite long. You can, if you wanted to, carry the cream or the neutral colour up the edge of the stripes as you went, but frankly, it's just neater. I think after the first 2 sections, it's just neater to cut and weave in the ends. I know some people don't like it, but frankly, I think it's worth it when it gives you a nicer finish, and also it helps maintain the elasticity of the edge, because when you're blocking, this is the edge that you need to block straight, and if you're carrying the yarn up the side, this is also the side that has the least give. So you want to make sure you're carrying the yarn up loosely anyway. You need to make sure you're knitting that edge stitch loosely anyway, and then with carrying yarn, you're just increasing your chances of having a tight edge. But it's totally up to you. You can carry it up if you want, or you can cut and weave in ends, which I personally prefer that method myself. But yeah, you're totally free to do what you want with that. Nikki from New Zealand asked in the questions thread, if I have a knitting journal, and if I did, if I could share that with you guys. I did start out with a knitting journal. I actually have 2 knitting journals that I went through. This is the first one I started with. Oh, the elephants, look how cute they are. I picked up this notebook when we were in Thailand a few years ago, and I didn't know what to do with it, and then about a year after, I think it was a year or 2 after, yeah, 2 years after we went to Thailand, I finally started knitting, and then I started using my notebook. And actually, I started knitting pretty much exactly the same time of year that we'd gone to Thailand the 2 years before, so it kind of felt right. And I mean, it's not a lot to show you, but it's, I kind of kept notes on the patterns that I'd knit and what I'd done with them and things like that. So I started out on this, and this was before I even found Ravelry. I wasn't really aware of Ravelry too much at the very beginning. And then as I went on, I found Ravelry and I joined, but I didn't really use it much other than to search for patterns. And then sort of as time went on, I started using Ravelry more, but I still like to keep my notes in paper and writing. I started sort of just sticking in the patterns as well as I went through, so I just sort of like cut it out and stuck it into the notebook. And then I realised I was making a lot of notes on the actual patterns themselves. I didn't want to, I get quite lazy and I can't be bothered to write things up again after I've written them down once, so I just sort of slipped the patterns into the notebook with my notes on them, so it's if I ever wanted to knit it again, I can just find the pattern and check my notes and stuff like that. So I'm actually now onto my 3rd book. I don't have that, it's under a bunch of stuff, so I can't grab it. But what I use more now is I've sort of transferred more to Ravelry. I still keep the paper copies of the patterns that I've used to knit from with my notes on them. I still like put those away and keep them. But I've sort of started to log everything on Ravelry. But I also use Excel. I guess it's kind of like my version of a Ravelry cube, but I sort of just prefer it this way. Sorry, my printer didn't print out very well, but you kind of get the idea. So I list out the patterns here, needle sizes, yarn, start date and end date. And then I also have started keeping track of the yardage or meterage that I'm using. And so this is kind of just a way for me to, if something comes to my mind, I want to knit this, I plonk it into my list here. And it sort of just becomes almost like my short list. So I've got my queue on Ravelry, but then this is like my short list. And my queue on Ravelry is not in any particular order, it's just in whatever order I added stuff to the queue. It's not, I need to go through and sort that out. But this is all the stuff that I want to knit on here. And then when I start it, then obviously I put in a start date and then it's highlighted in yellow. So if it's highlighted in yellow, then that's a WIP, that's a current work in progress. And this starts back in May. So everything in blue is what I finished in May, orange is June, purple is July, and green is August so far. And this blue one down here is actually my Cozy Memories blanket. But so that's kind of just how I keep track of my projects. I don't really write stuff out into a journal as such anymore. I just find I don't have the patience for that. But I do keep notes on my patterns, on the actual pattern paper that I'm writing. Sorry, not that I'm writing, that I'm using to knit from. If I make changes or make any modifications or whatever, I sort of just make a note of it on there, and then I keep those afterwards. It's not like I throw them away. So that's kind of what I do. It's not a particularly great method, but it works. Nikki also asked if I've ever knit a Hitafude. She was asking because she was thinking of knitting one and wasn't sure. She wanted to make some modifications to it, but wasn't entirely sure on it. No, I haven't knit a Hitafude, and I don't even have the pattern, so I can't really help with that. But it was something I was thinking of knitting. I actually considered using the Warm Eyes lace garn that I'm using for my Viajante for a Hitafude at one point, but I think it's not really a cardigan style that I would wear. It's beautiful, and I know a couple of people who have knit them and love them, and they are nice. I just don't think the style suits me particularly well. I would have to make quite a lot of modifications to it because I'm quite a tall person, and the way it sits, I'm just not entirely sure it would be the most flattering shape on me. So it would hang and accentuate all the bits of me that I don't want to accentuate. So for that reason, I think I probably won't be knitting one, or if I did, I'd probably have to make quite a lot of modifications, and I'm not sure I'm really interested enough to want to do that. So I'm sorry, Nikki, I can't really help you with that one there. But if you go check out the project pages for that pattern, I'm sure you'll find other people who have made the types of modifications that you're looking for, and if they don't have a lot of notes on it, maybe you could contact them and find out how they did it. Right, so my question for you guys this week is, what is the hardest or most challenging thing that you've knit for you? Like, it doesn't necessarily have to be a really intricate lace project or something that is intensely cabled, but what for you, out of all the things that you've knit so far, and it doesn't even have to be something recent, it could be something that now doesn't seem like a challenge but at the time was really challenging. What for you is the most challenging thing that you've knit? Yeah, and if you have a photo that you can share, then I'd love to see it. So leave a comment about that in the Ravelry thread. I'd love to know what that is for you, and what did you learn from it? What about that project was particularly challenging for you? Did it go well? Are you happy with the result? Just, yeah, any sort of story behind it and whatever, I'd love to hear that. And my next question for you is not actually knitting related at all, and this is actually probably really only aimed at you guys who are in the States. We're coming to New York in a couple of weeks, and I've been trying to find out about getting a SIM card, a US SIM card, just a pay-as-you-go one for whilst I'm there, just so I can get some data and some minutes so I can make phone calls and stuff without running up my phone bill to crazy amounts. But I'm finding it really hard to find out accurate information online at the moment, or it seems to be quite confusing. So if any of you have any suggestions for a good sort of just really simple pay-as-you-go, I am more interested in having data than a lot of like minutes of text message, not so much interested in that. Just need something so I can use Google Maps and WhatsApp really. So please let me know if you have any suggestions for a sort of like because I'll be coming to the US quite a lot over the next, I realized the other day, I'll be coming to the US at least 2 to 3 times in the next 4 to 5 months. So it'd be good to have a SIM card that I can use while I'm there. So if you do have any suggestions for which network to go with, I have an iPhone, so something that would work with an iPhone would be great. Yeah, I'd really appreciate the help. So thank you in advance for any suggestions on that. And I think that pretty much wraps up the main part of the podcast, and move on to the weekend review. So as you guys probably know, Perry's been away this week. He gets back tonight. I cannot wait to see him. I really missed him this week. This week was probably the hardest week to not have him around. I think it's just been, yeah, I do miss him. I miss having him around in the evenings. I do get a lot of knitting done. I do get a lot of crafting done when he's not here, but I would much rather have him around than that. My sleep schedule just kind of goes way out the window when he's not around. It starts out okay at the beginning when he's not here, but gradually as the week goes on, I end up going to bed later and later at night and waking up slightly later every morning as well. This little guy would come and snuggle next to me on the bed. Here you go, come on. In the mornings, we'd have little snuggles in the mornings for about half an hour or so before I got up. And since we moved here, he's not been doing that anymore. And obviously, Perry's been around more, so he's not been necessary. But even when Perry's been away, he's not really done that so much. But this week, he started doing that again, which was really sweet, and I love it. We love a little morning snuggle session. Hey, what are you doing? Come on. You really gonna snuggle or are you gonna go? Alright, there he goes. What else? I had to go to the dentist this last week. If you follow me on Instagram, you'll have heard all about it. But and actually on the way to the dentist, I had to take a detour because one of the roundabouts on my way there was basically closed off because of burning tires, which is lovely. Protesters were protesting something. Honestly, I didn't hang around long enough to find out what they were protesting, but they set up piles of tires that they'd set on fire at each of the entrances to this roundabout. So all 4 entrances to the roundabout were basically closed because of burning tires. So that was fun. Thankfully, I was far back enough to notice it, and I could take a side road off and manage to detour around the whole thing. So that was okay. Derek, what are you doing? Come here. Yeah, stay away from there. Yeah, so that was interesting. Nothing particularly dangerous, just they were just peacefully protesting with burning tires, I guess. And then dentist, yes. I had a toothache in one of my teeth, and it was really odd because I shouldn't have had any pain in that tooth because I'd had a root canal done. So there should be no nerve, therefore there should be no pain. So I went to get it checked out, and turns out there was a cyst, like an infected cyst in my gums. And at first he was like, okay, well maybe they didn't do the root canal properly, but I've had that tooth root canal twice now, because the first time the dentist didn't do it properly, and the second time I saw a specialist and they did it. So I was like, there is no way that this tooth needs another root canal, because I am just like, I've had it up to here with dentists and root canals. For those of you who don't know, I've had a really bad history with dentists. I've had a couple of dentists who've been really terrible, and have actually made my problems worse. I had one where I went for a filling. They didn't do the filling properly. I went back again for a second filling, and then 3 months later, they obviously still hadn't done it right, because the problem got so bad that I then needed a root canal. And then it sort of happened again a couple of years ago, where I had a problem with a tooth, went to get it fixed, they didn't do it properly, it got worse, and then I had to get a root canal, and then they didn't do the root canal properly and had to do the root canal again. I've had really bad luck with the dentist. I get really anxious. I don't really get anxiety over anything. There are very few things in life that get me worked up the way that I get worked up over going to the dentist, and it is terribly for me very stressful. I really sort of have to psych myself out about doing it. I always feel like once I decide to go to the dentist, I have to go straight away, because if I sit and think about it too much, I'll talk myself out of it. So once I realised it was hurting a bit, I booked an appointment and I just sort of went, and he when I told him, obviously I'd had it done a couple of times already, and he was like, okay, well then we'll do it differently, we'll go in through the gums and take it out. And he was like, it'll be much quicker and much it'll be a much shorter procedure as well. And so he said he could fit me in that same day in the evening. So I was like, okay, fine, I'll just do it the same day. I'll go back, just get it done and over with, because it was either that or wait a couple of weeks. And I was like, no, if I have to wait a couple of weeks, it's just gonna play on my mind, and I'm just gonna be really stressing about it for 2 weeks, and I don't want that. I just want it over with. So I went back that evening and he did that, and I've been okay since. I'm on antibiotics, and he gave me painkillers, but I only needed them that first evening. I'm not sure how much you can tell, but you probably can't tell that much in the video at the moment, but this side of my face, it's here where they did the procedure, but this side of my face was like properly swollen out to the side. I looked like half a chipmunk or like a chipmunk with like food stuffed in the side of my face. Like when I smile, you can kind of see this side is bigger than this side, but the swelling has gone way down since Wednesday. It was pretty bad over the weekend. I was Skyping my parents, and my mum looked like terrified when she saw my face, but it's definitely gone down since then. But it's also been affecting my sleep as well, because I tend to sleep on this side of my face, and I can't do that at the moment. Oh yeah, and then the dentist also gave me an injection, like an anti-inflammatory injection in my arm. So I came home, went to bed, woke up the next morning to find, well, I woke up because Hugo ripped the plaster off my arm. So that was a fun way to wake up. Not really, I think he was just hungry and was bored of me ignoring him. But anyway, that pretty much sums up my week. It's got quite a bit of sewing done, got the shop update, a bit of knitting, got some designing done, went to the dentist. That was, yeah, anyway. I'm just unlucky with my teeth. Me and my dad have the same problem. I had a dentist tell me once a few years ago that I'm just genetically predisposed to having problem teeth. Like I said, it runs in my dad's family. And I've always said to Perry as well, when we have kids, I want them to have his teeth. He doesn't have any fillings, and I have like a bajillion of them. Doesn't matter what I do, doesn't matter how well I look after my teeth, I'm just predisposed to have problems with my teeth. So it just means I've now become really good at noticing when something's going wrong. But anyway, doesn't mean it doesn't freak me out every time I have to go. Yeah, so anyway, on that note, I will wrap this up. Oh, I do have a little video clip I'm gonna add on to the end here for you guys, a little something happy and cheerful to end this episode. I found this video clip that I put together of the kittens, of the boys, when they were still kittens. They were 7 months old in this video clip, and we were living in Dubai. And it's just a little montage of clips of footage of one morning when we were playing with them at home. And it's just really fun. There's a bit with them on the bed, and you'll see Hugo just keeps running off the edge of the bed because he's so excited. Like as he's trying to chase something, he ends up flying off the edge of the bed, and that is Hugo both times. And Derek is the jumper. Derek is the one who does most of the jumping in the video as well. So yeah, so I thought I'd add that little clip on. It's only a couple minutes long, so I'll add that on to the end of this episode for you guys. So I hope you enjoy that. I know more of you have been asking to see the boys in the podcast and stuff, so I managed to get them both in this episode. I didn't think either of them would show up, so guess you guys got lucky this week. And yeah, so I'll wrap that up now. Thank you so much for stopping by and checking me out. please come and join the chatter in the Ravelry group. And yeah, it's been lovely to chat with you guys today. If you have any questions, please let me know in the questions and answers thread on the group. I'll be happy to answer them on the podcast. I'm happy to answer pretty much any types of questions you have. So just let me know. And yeah, till next week, have a happy Monday and have fun. Bye.